The audiobook, The Fall of the House of Usher, Edgar Allan Poe, Level A2, Iowa Reading Club.
One cold autumn night, I received a letter from Roderick Usher. He was a good old friend of mine. Although we spent a lot of time together as children, I knew little about his family. It was an old and rich one, and they were famous for their interest in art and charity. At the moment, Roderick and his sister Madeline were the last living members of the Usher family. The letter was written in a wild, nervous manner. Roderick spoke of some illness of body and mind that worried him. He asked me to come to visit him immediately, so it was necessary for me to go and see what was the matter. The next morning I took to the road. It was a dark, sad day, and clouds were low in the sky. I rode on my horse through empty land for a long time. Finally, I reached the House of Usher. I looked at the scene in front of me. There was a quiet lake and half-dead trees. The empty windows of the house looked like eyes and felt cold and scary. But I couldn't understand what exactly was so awful about them. I looked again at the still landscape, and a strange thought came to my mind. It seemed to me that the air around the house was special, somehow different from the normal air. It was heavy, and had a feeling of death to it. I entered the house with a heavy heart. A servant came to meet me. He led me through long, dark halls. It was hard for me to recognize this place, although I knew it well. Finally, we came to the living room. The place was poorly lit, and the windows were very high up the walls. The corners of the room were so dark that I couldn't see them at all. There were some chairs, tables, and books. However, it seemed like no one ever used them. When I entered the room, Usher greeted me warmly. He was very happy to see me. At first, I thought that he was all right, but when I looked at his face, I felt scared. His appearance was changed. His skin was very pale, and his eyes looked strangely bright. It was a sad and worrying surprise for me. Roderick's manner was also strange. I suppose he was really nervous, but he tried to hide it. His movements were first too quick, then suddenly very slow. Now there was fear in his voice, but the next moment it became strong and controlled. He told me about the possible cause of his illness. "It is an ancient family disease, and I don't think I will ever get better," he explained. His symptoms were definitely unusual. Perhaps his way of talking made them seem even stranger. According to Roderick, his senses of taste and smell were extremely sharpened. Moreover, light hurt his eyes, and all noises scared him. "I will die, I will certainly die," he said. "I am so afraid of everything that I will lose my mind." I soon learned another strange thing about Roderick Usher's condition. "This house is alive, and has some kind of control over me. I am sure of it," he told me. Yet another factor made the heavy atmosphere in the house even worse. Madeline, Roderick's sister, also fought a terrible illness. She was sometimes unable to walk or even move, and often stayed asleep for too long. Roderick was certain that she was going to die soon. When he spoke, I saw Lady Madeline pass through the room, but she did not notice me. For several days after that, no one mentioned her name. I tried to cheer up my friend as best as I could. We read aloud and painted together. Sometimes Roderick played his guitar for me. I listened to strange and beautiful music, feeling like I was in a dream. But the more I tried, the more I realized there was no hope. There were no positive things on Roderick's mind. The pictures he painted were very unusual and impossible to describe. Most of the music hurt his ears. He composed songs himself, and those were the only songs that he could listen to. One of them was called The Ghost Palace. It was about a brave king and dark powers that destroyed his happiness. Was this song about his own life? I asked myself. One evening, Roderick told me that Lady Madeline was dead, but he didn't want to bury her just yet. Instead, he suggested we put her body in a special room in the basement. He had clear reasons for doing so. Madeline's doctor would likely want to take a look at her body. He was interested in her strange condition, Roderick explained. Moreover, the graveyard is quite far away. I agreed to do as he asked. We carried Madeline's body to a small room deep in the basement. That was the moment when I noticed that Roderick and Madeline looked very similar. He told me they were twins. Because of that, they felt closely connected. When I looked at Madeline again, I thought that she didn't exactly look dead. It even seemed to me that she was smiling. But when I touched her, her skin was cold like the stone walls of the house. After that, Roderick changed completely. Sometimes he sat looking at nothing for hours. Sometimes he just walked from one room to another without any purpose. When he spoke, his voice was weak, and his face grew whiter than ever before. One night, I lay in my bed. It was impossible for me to fall asleep. I was too scared and worried. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind my door. It was Roderick. He came in and led me to the window, saying, "Did you see it?" We looked out of the window. Fog covered the ground. It was unusual because it shone in the dark. "Don't worry, my friend. I am sure there is some scientific explanation for this," I said, and shut the window. I offered to read him a book aloud. Roderick listened quietly. But then something terrible started happening. I was reading about a man who broke a wooden door. Suddenly, I heard a strange noise in the distance. Somebody is trying to break free, I thought to myself. I hear the sound of wood breaking. But no, this is impossible. The same sound repeated several times, but Roderick didn't seem to notice. I stood up and touched him on the shoulder. He seemed to wake up from sleep. "I heard it," he shouted. "I have heard it since we buried her, but now I know. She was still alive." Suddenly, he jumped out of his chair and cried, "She is standing at the door." At that moment, the door opened slowly. Behind it stood Madeline. She was wearing her white dress, but it was covered in blood. She ran toward her brother, fell in his arms and immediately died. Roderick also died right there, killed by his own fear. I ran out of the room and out of the building. I looked back at the House of Usher and saw it break in two. It slowly fell into the deep black lake and disappeared completely.
Do you enjoy listening to stories? Check out more videos on our channel, like this one.